The first message came in while I was at work, then another. Then my phone started vibrating nonstop against my desk, like it was warning me of something I wasn't ready to see. I opened the group chat first. Question marks, laughing emojis. One message simply said, is this a joke? My chest tightened before the screenshots even finished loading. There he was, my boyfriend, sitting across from his ex, same cafe chain, same casual closeness. One photo with coffee cups, another with lunch plates. And then the last story, him laughing, her leaning in just a little too comfortably. The caption sat underneath it all, smug and deliberate. If this bothers you, that's a you problem. My fingers went cold, not shaking yet, just numb, like my body was stalling while my brain caught up. 2 days earlier, I had done everything the right way. My ex, someone I dated briefly years ago, someone I ended things with cleanly, had reached out for coffee. I told my boyfriend that same night, gave him space to say no, gave him room to be honest. He hadn't even looked up from his phone. I'm not insecure like that, he said. Do whatever, I trust you. So I went, 1 hour, neutral conversation, engagement news, polite smiles. I came home early, we ordered takeout, watched a show, went to bed like any other night, no tension, no drama. And now this. My coworkers' voices faded into background noise as I stared at the screen, rereading the caption over and over. It wasn't playful, it wasn't careless, it was pointed. A message meant for me, wrapped in a performance for everyone else. When I got home that evening, he was already there, lounging on the couch like nothing had happened. Hey, he said easily, how was work? I remember standing there, keys still in my hand, noticing how calm he looked, how normal, like he hadn't turned my relationship into a public statement. That was the moment something shifted inside me. Not anger, yet. Something sharper. Awareness. This wasn't about coffee. It wasn't about exes. It was about rules that only applied one way. About testing how much discomfort I'd tolerate to prove I was secure. About power dressed up as maturity. And as I stood there, heart beating slow and heavy in my chest, one thought settled in with terrifying clarity. If this was the standard he wanted to live by, I was about to follow it exactly. And he wasn't ready for what that would reveal. I met him a year and a half ago, in a way that felt effortless at the time. We were introduced through mutual friends at a casual group hangout. Nothing romantic, nothing forced. He was funny without trying too hard. Attentive in that quiet way that makes you feel seen without being overwhelmed. When he asked for my number at the end of the night, it didn't feel like a risk. It felt easy. The relationship followed that same rhythm in the beginning. We weren't intense or dramatic. We didn't rush labels, didn't live inside each other's pockets. It felt mature, balanced, like two people choosing each other without needing to prove anything. Early on, we did what we both claimed was the healthy thing. We talked about boundaries, specifically exes. Neither of us wanted to pretend we didn't have pasts. We were adults. We both agreed that staying friendly with exes wasn't automatically a red flag, as long as there was transparency and respect. No secrets, no emotional overlap, no games. He was very confident about it. I'm not the jealous type, he said once, leaning back like the topic bored him. If you trust your partner, that stuff shouldn't matter. I remember liking that about him. It sounded evolved, secure. Like he wasn't the kind of man who needed to control who I spoke to or where I went. At the time, it felt refreshing. My own dating history wasn't messy. My ex, the one who would later become relevant, was someone I'd dated briefly a couple of years earlier. 6 months. Mutual ending. No bitterness. We'd stayed cordial, the occasional check-in, nothing emotionally charged. Just two people who realized they weren't right for each other and moved on. His history was a little deeper. He'd dated his ex for about 2 years. They had more shared memories, more overlap in friend circles, but he always framed it as completely done. She was just someone from his past who happened to still exist in the same city. I took him at his word. For most of our relationship, things felt solid. We spent weekends together, met each other's friends, talked about future plans in that vague, comfortable way. No pressure, just alignment. When we disagreed, it never escalated. He liked to present himself as calm, rational, the emotionally steady one. Looking back, I realize how much I trusted the tone he used. Anytime something could have been a boundary discussion, he'd soften it with language about security and maturity. He didn't say, "I'm okay with this." He said, I don't need to control you. I didn't hear the difference then. The week everything unraveled started innocently enough. My ex reached out, asked if I wanted to grab coffee and catch up. I didn't hesitate to tell my boyfriend that same night. I remember standing in the kitchen, phone still in my hand. My ex texted, I said casually. He asked if I wanted to get coffee. Totally fine if you're not comfortable with that. He barely looked up. I'm not insecure like that, he said. Do whatever. I trust you. I even checked again. You sure? Yeah, he replied. It's fine. So I believed him. I had no idea that agreement, the one we'd made together, the one he'd insisted was proof of how mature he was about to be used as a weapon. Because what I thought was mutual trust, he saw as an opportunity to test how far he could push me without consequences. Thursday afternoon, I met my ex at a small coffee shop downtown. Nothing about it felt secretive. I arrived on time, sat across from him, ordered a latte. We talked for maybe an hour, safe topics, surface-level updates. He told me he'd recently gotten engaged and wanted to share the news in person since we'd stayed on friendly terms. He showed me a photo of the ring, proud but not inappropriate. We talked briefly about his fiancée, work, mutual acquaintances. There was no flirting, no nostalgia, no emotional weight. When we hugged goodbye, it was the kind of quick, polite hug you give someone you've fully moved on from. I left feeling neutral, almost bored. The kind of interaction that confirms you made the right decision ending things. I got home around 5. My boyfriend was already there, sprawled on the couch like any other weekday evening. He looked up, smiled, asked how my day was. I told him the coffee went fine. He nodded, uninterested. That should have been the end of it. We ordered takeout, watched a show, laughed at the same dumb jokes we always did, went to bed like normal. No tension, no passive comments, no indication that anything had shifted. Friday morning, I woke up thinking the whole thing had passed without incident. By mid-morning, my phone told a different story. It started with a text from a friend. Is everything okay? Then another. Have you seen his stories? By the time the screenshots came through, my stomach had already dropped. 3 Instagram stories. The first, him sitting across from his ex at a coffee shop, mirroring the exact setting I'd been in the day before. The second, lunch plates, shared smiles. The third, both of them laughing, her hand mid-gesture like the moment was intimate enough to capture. And the caption, bold and deliberate. If this bothers you, that's a you problem. I stared at my screen longer than I want to admit. It wasn't just that he'd gone out with his ex. We had agreed exes were fine. It was the timing. The fact that it was the same day I'd met mine. The way he chose to post it publicly. The caption wasn't neutral. It was confrontational. A statement. A challenge. My friends' messages kept coming. Is this about you? Did something happen? Why does this feel pointed? I didn't know how to answer because I didn't know yet what game he was playing. When I got home that evening, he was on the couch again, casual as ever. Hey, babe, he said, smiling. How was work? I didn't sit down. Interesting, I replied. I saw your stories. Oh, he said lightly. Yeah, just catching up with an old friend. No big deal? He shrugged. You said it yourself. We both agreed exes are fine. And the caption? I asked. He waved it off. Just a general statement. If people get insecure about their partners having coffee with friends, that's their issue to work on. The way he said it, calm, confident, almost condescending, made something tighten in my chest. Because suddenly I understood. This wasn't him casually living by our agreement. This was a test. A performance meant to see if I'd swallow discomfort to prove I was secure. And now, as he watched my reaction carefully, I realized he wasn't interested in how I felt. He was interested in whether I'd push back. I didn't argue with him that night. That was the part he didn't expect. I stood there for a moment longer, keys still in my hand, replaying his words in my head. Secure, not controlling. Your issue to work on. He looked so comfortable saying them, like he'd rehearsed that tone. Calm, reasonable, untouchable. So, I said slowly, you're totally cool with me hanging out with my ex. He didn't hesitate. I literally said I was. Did you not hear me? Just making sure we're on the same page. We are, he replied. I'm secure in our relationship. I don't need to control who you talk to. Then he added, almost casually, like it was obvious. She's just a friend now. There's history, sure, but it's done. Coffee doesn't mean anything. The way he said it, so certain, so final, made my jaw tighten. In his mind, context didn't matter. History didn't matter. If he decided something was harmless, then any discomfort around it automatically became insecurity. Anyone who disagreed, anyone who felt hurt, anyone who questioned it. Immature. The problem. Okay, I said. That was it. No raised voice, no debate. If those were the rules, if exes were just friends, if coffee and dinner were meaningless, if trust meant never reacting, then I would follow them exactly. Later that night, after he went to bed, I sat alone on my couch, scrolling through my phone. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't angry yet. I felt clear. I replayed his words in my head. She's just a friend now. No double meanings, no hidden clauses, just friends. I opened my messages and typed out a text to his best friend. We'd always been friendly. Group hangouts, birthdays, casual conversations where nothing ever crossed a line. He worked in graphic design, had a dry sense of humor, and was easy to talk to in a way that never felt loaded. There had never been anything inappropriate between us, ever. Hey, random question, I typed. Do you want to grab dinner sometime this week? Been meaning to catch up outside the group hangouts. The reply came quickly. Yeah, sure, I'm free tomorrow if you want. That Italian place on 5th? Perfect. 7? See you then. Saturday evening, I got ready with intention. Nothing over the top, just a nice outfit, hair done, makeup simple but deliberate. The kind of effort that says this isn't accidental. My boyfriend was at his sister's place for the day. He had no idea where I was going. Dinner itself was easy. We talked about work, complained about mutual annoying acquaintances, shared funny stories from group trips. No flirting, no tension, just good food and relaxed conversation. It felt normal, pleasant in the most uneventful way. At one point, I took out my phone. One photo, just the two of us at the table, wine glasses visible, both smiling. I posted it with a simple caption, "Good food, good company." I tagged him. Put my phone on silent, went back to my meal. I didn't check my phone again until I got to my car around 9. 32 notifications, almost all from my boyfriend. What the hell is this? Are you seriously out with my best friend? This is so disrespectful. You need to come home right now. I can't believe you would do this. This is completely different and you know it. Delete that photo immediately. Answer your phone. I took screenshots of every single message, calmly, methodically. Then I replied with one line. Having dinner with a friend. If this bothers you, that's a you problem. Sent. I turned my phone off and drove home with a strange sense of calm settling into my chest, like something inside me had already accepted what was coming. When I got to my apartment, thank God we didn't live together, he was waiting outside my door. His face was flushed, his jaw tight. The anger wasn't subtle. We need to talk, he said. Okay. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. He followed. What you did tonight was completely out of line, he said, pacing. How so? I asked, sitting down. You took my best friend to dinner. That crosses a major boundary. You took your ex to lunch and posted about it, I replied evenly. Same thing. That's different, he snapped. She's just a friend now. We have history, but it's over. And your best friend is just a friend, I said. We had dinner. What's the problem? He stopped pacing and stared at me like I'd said something offensive. You know what the problem is, he said. You did this to get back at me. No, I said calmly. I did this because you told me you were secure and didn't need to control who I hang out with. I'm just following your lead. His face darkened. That's not, he started. You're twisting this. Am I? I asked. Because it sounds like you can hang out with your ex and post about it, but I can't have dinner with your friend. He's my friend, he said sharply. That's the line. I let the silence stretch. Funny, I said quietly. You didn't mention that line before. That was the moment it stopped being about dinner. It was about who got to make the rules and who was expected to quietly live by them. He stood there, chest rising fast, waiting for me to back down. I didn't. The silence stretched between us, thick and deliberate. I could hear my own heartbeat, slow, steady, almost annoyingly calm compared to the agitation radiating off him. He wanted an emotional reaction, tears, apologies, something that would let him frame himself as the reasonable one again. What you did was vindictive, he said finally, pacing again. You know exactly why this is different. Explain it to me, I said, keeping my voice level. He stopped and looked at me like I was being intentionally dense. You went out with my best friend to make a point. I went out with a friend, I replied, using the exact logic you gave me. That's not the same, he snapped, and you know it. Then help me understand, I said. Because when you went out with your ex and posted about it, you said anyone who felt uncomfortable was insecure. Your words. I took you at face value. He dragged a hand down his face, frustrated. I told you that was fine. I said I didn't care. And I'm telling you this was fine, I said. I'm secure in our relationship. I don't need to control who you talk to. I used his words again, exactly as he'd said them. His jaw clenched. The shift was subtle, but I saw it. The moment he realized the script wasn't working the way he'd planned. You're twisting my words, he said. I'm repeating them. That caption, he said, changing tactics. You know, posting that was a low blow. The caption you used first? I asked quietly. That was different. I leaned back against the couch and crossed my arms, not defensively, just comfortably. You keep saying that, but you haven't explained why. He opened his mouth, then closed it, tried again. Because you knew it would hurt me. I nodded slowly. And when you posted yours, did you think about how it would make me feel? He hesitated, just for a second. I didn't think it would be a big deal, he said finally. There it is, I said. His eyes narrowed. What? You didn't think it would be a big deal to you, I clarified. So you decided it shouldn't be a big deal to me either. That's not fair. It's exactly fair, I said. You set a standard based on what you were comfortable with. When I applied that same standard back to you, suddenly there were exceptions. He scoffed. So what, you're saying I'm not allowed to have boundaries? I'm saying you don't get to invent boundaries after the fact, I replied, especially when they only apply to me. He stopped pacing and looked at me, really looked at me, like he was reassessing the situation. This isn't how relationships work, he said. You don't retaliate. I didn't retaliate, I said. I participated. That seemed to hit harder. He laughed once, sharp and humorless. Wow, so you're really going to pretend you didn't do this to get back at me? I didn't answer right away. I watched him, his posture, the way he kept shifting, the irritation underneath the certainty. I realized then that he wasn't upset about dinner. He was upset that I hadn't played my role. I didn't do this to hurt you, I said finally. I did it to understand you, and now I do. His expression hardened. So what? You think you caught me in some gotcha moment? I think you showed me something, I said, and I can't unsee it. He stared at me, breathing heavy. You're overreacting. I smiled faintly, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Maybe, I said, but if I am, then so were you, and according to you, that's a you problem. The words landed, hard. He looked away first. We stood there for a moment longer, the air between us brittle. I could feel something breaking, not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly, like a thread snapping under steady pressure. Finally, he grabbed his jacket from the chair. I'm not staying with someone who disrespects boundaries like this, he said. Good, I replied, because I'm not staying with someone who makes rules for me that don't apply to them. He froze, then scoffed, like he couldn't believe I'd said it. Unbelievable, he muttered, reaching for the door. He grabbed the few things he kept at my place, a toothbrush, a hoodie, a charger, and shoved them into his bag. When he left, he slammed the door hard enough that my phone buzzed a second later with a text from my neighbor asking if everything was okay. I sat down slowly on the couch, exhaled, and waited for the wave of regret I expected to come crashing in. It didn't. What I felt instead was strange and quiet and unexpectedly solid. Relief. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I realized I hadn't lost anything real. I just stopped pretending. The aftermath didn't wait for morning. I woke up Sunday to my phone vibrating nonstop on the nightstand, the screen lighting up the dark room again and again. For a brief second, I forgot everything. Then the memory of the door slamming came back, sharp and clear. I reached for my phone and immediately regretted it. Notifications stacked on notifications. Missed calls, DMs, mentions, group chats lighting up like fireworks. I hadn't even opened Instagram yet, and I already knew what I'd find. When I did, there it was. A 7-slide Instagram story rant. He didn't use my name, but he didn't need to. Anyone who knew us knew exactly who he was talking about. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Boundaries exist for a reason. If your partner deliberately tries to hurt you, that's not love. I deserve someone who respects my friendships. Manipulation is abuse. Know your worth. Single and healing. I sat there, phone heavy in my hand, heart sinking in a way that felt different from the night before. This wasn't anger, it was disbelief. He had taken the narrative and flipped it completely. The comments were already pouring in. Heart emojis. You deserve better. So proud of you. People validating him without context, without questions. But I noticed comments disappearing almost as quickly as they appeared. One person wrote, "Wait, didn't you just post with your ex on Thursday?" Gone. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't defended myself. Around mid-morning, my phone buzzed with a message from his best friend. What is happening? He called me last night screaming about you having dinner with me. I told him we literally just got food and talked about work, and he said I betrayed him. I stared at the screen, then typed back. He showed up at my place, said I crossed a boundary, broke up with me. A pause, then, "That's insane. He was the one who posted with his ex." That caption was so passive-aggressive. "That's exactly what I said," I replied. "He claims it's different." "It's not different," he wrote. "Honestly, I think he went out with his ex to make you jealous and got mad when you didn't react." The thought settled uncomfortably into place. It made sense in a way I didn't like. He hadn't wanted maturity. He'd wanted reassurance, a reaction, proof that he still had leverage. Instead, I'd matched the energy, and he'd lost control of the narrative. By Sunday afternoon, he tried calling me. Twice. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "We need to talk about this like adults," he said, his voice strained. "You can't just ignore me. Call me back." I deleted it. Then came a text from his mother. "I didn't even know she had my number. I heard you and my son broke up. He's very upset. I think you both said things in the heat of the moment. Maybe you should talk it out." I stared at the message longer than necessary before replying. "With respect, this is between me and your son. I appreciate your concern, but we're both adults." A few minutes later, she responded. "He said you deliberately tried to hurt him." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not guilt, but clarity. He went out with his ex and posted about it saying, "If this bothers you, that's a you problem." I had dinner with his friend using the same logic. He decided those were different things. That's on him. She didn't respond after that. Monday brought a new tactic. He posted a photo of us from months earlier, one where we looked genuinely happy. His arm around me, my head tilted toward his shoulder. Sometimes the people who seem perfect for you are actually the ones who hurt you most. Trust the process. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. By Tuesday, the story had evolved. His best friend texted me again. "He's telling people you cheated on him with me." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Yeah," he replied. "He is going around saying we've been secretly seeing each other and that dinner was us going public. It's completely untrue." I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. "That's not what happened," I typed. "At all." "I know," he wrote back. "I've been telling people the truth, but he's pushing this narrative hard. I'm honestly about to post the screenshots of you asking me to dinner, so people can see it was innocent." "Do what you need to do," I replied. "I've got screenshots too if it comes to that." Wednesday night, he showed up at my apartment again. It was around 8. I was making dinner when the knock came, sharp, impatient. "I know you're in there," he called. "I can hear the TV." I checked the peephole. It was him, jaw clenched, shoulders tense. I opened the door, but stayed in the doorway. "What do you want?" "I want to fix this," he said quickly. "I miss you." "You broke up with me," I replied. "I overreacted," he said. "I was hurt." "You were hurt," I said slowly, "because I treated you the same way you treated me." "I apologize for that," he said. "When?" I asked. He hesitated. "Just now." "That's not really how apologies work." He sighed dramatically. "Fine. I'm sorry I posted those stories. I'm sorry I made that caption. I was immature. Happy?" "No," I said honestly, "because you're only sorry you got called out." "That's not true." "You feel bad about the consequences," I said, "not the behavior." His face hardened. "You're being impossible." "I'm being consistent." I started to close the door. He put his hand out to stop it. "Wait," he said. "Can we just start over? Pretend this week didn't happen?" I looked at him, really looked at him. "No," I said, "because this week showed me exactly who you are." He stood there for a moment longer, then stepped back. I closed the door. He knocked once more, then left. With each escalation, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't about fixing anything. It was about control slipping, and him doing everything he could to grab it back. The noise finally stopped midweek. No calls, no messages, no new posts. The sudden silence should have felt like relief, but instead it felt like standing in the middle of a room after something heavy had crashed to the floor, quiet, tense, waiting for the aftershock. That was when it hit me. Not the anger, not the indignation, the grief. It crept in during the most ordinary moments, while I was folding laundry, while I was brushing my teeth, while I was staring at my phone, instinctively reaching for a name that no longer belonged in my life. I wasn't mourning the breakup itself. That part had been decided the moment he doubled down instead of listening. What hurt was the realization that the version of him I loved, the calm, secure, emotionally evolved man, had never really existed. He had been a performance. I replayed our early conversations over and over, hearing them differently now. The way he framed jealousy as immaturity, The way he spoke about trust like it was something only other people struggled with. The way he praised himself for not being controlling while quietly setting rules that only went one direction. I had mistaken confidence for integrity, and that mistake sat heavy in my chest. One evening, I opened Instagram without thinking. His profile was private now, a small detail, but it felt symbolic. The man who had once needed an audience had suddenly shut the doors. I wondered if he was licking his wounds or rewriting the story again, this time just for himself. I thought about the screenshots, how easily they'd flipped the narrative, how close I'd come to being labeled manipulative, abusive, the villain in a story I hadn't even written. That scared me, not because I doubted myself, but because I realized how easily the truth can be buried if you don't protect it. I sat on my couch that night, lights off, city noise drifting through the window. My chest felt tight, breath shallow. For the first time since this started, I let myself feel the full weight of it. I had loved someone who believed accountability was optional, someone who could hurt me publicly, then accuse me of cruelty for responding with the same energy. Someone who saw relationships as leverage, not partnership. And the worst part? I had almost apologized. That thought made my stomach turn. If I had cried that night, if I had begged him to understand, if I had softened my words to keep the peace, he would have stayed. Not because we were healthy, but because the system would have been restored. Him on top, me adjusting. The realization was sobering. I wasn't heartbroken because he left. I was heartbroken because I finally saw how small I would have had to make myself to stay. At some point, my phone buzzed softly. A message from his best friend. "Just checking in," he wrote. "I'm really sorry you got pulled into all of this. None of it was fair." I stared at the screen, throat tightening. "Thank you," I typed back. I needed to hear that. I set the phone down and leaned back, eyes closed, letting the silence settle properly this time. It wasn't empty anymore. It was clean. Painful but honest. That night, lying in bed, I realized something else. This wasn't the lowest point because I'd lost him. It was the lowest point because I had to confront the fact that I'd ignored my own discomfort for far too long, mistaking emotional restraint for maturity and self-erasure for compromise. The darkness wasn't about him. It was about me standing at the edge of a pattern I could either repeat or finally break. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel reactive. I felt resolved. The screenshots went public without my name attached to them. That was the part that changed everything. I didn't post them. I didn't caption them. I didn't explain a single thing. I stayed exactly where I had been all along. Quiet, consistent, and done reacting. It started with a message from one of his friends, someone I'd met a few times at group dinners. Someone who had watched the Instagram stories unfold in real time and felt like something didn't add up. "Hey," she wrote. "This is awkward, but can I ask what actually happened? He's been talking about you all week and something feels off." I stared at the message for a long moment, weighing my options. This wasn't about defending myself to everyone. It was about stopping a lie from becoming permanent. So I sent her the screenshots. Nothing dramatic, nothing extra. Just the facts. His Instagram story with his ex. The caption, "If this bothers you, that's a you problem." My dinner photo, same energy. And then the DMs. His messages unraveling, demanding, furious, contradictory. Her response came a few minutes later. "Oh, yeah. He definitely left some things out. He's telling people you're manipulative and emotionally abusive," she added. "But this doesn't look like that at all." "Context matters," I replied. "Do whatever you think is right." She did. Within an hour, the screenshots were on her story with one simple line underneath. "Context matters. Stop believing one-sided stories." That was it. No names, no accusations, just receipts. The effect was immediate. Messages started trickling in, not dramatic apologies, not declarations of loyalty, just quiet check-ins. People who had seen the narrative flip in real time and were recalibrating. Meanwhile, he panicked. He posted again, another story, this one sharp and defensive. "Sharing private conversations without consent is betrayal. Some of you need to learn what real friendship means." The irony didn't go unnoticed. Comments on his regular posts turned brutal. "You can dish it but can't take it, huh? Maybe just admit you were wrong. The double standard is wild." One by one, the comments disappeared. Then his account went private. That was the moment I felt it, the shift. Not satisfaction, not revenge. Relief. Because for the first time since this started, the truth existed outside of me. I didn't have to carry it alone. I didn't have to explain myself into exhaustion. The facts were visible now, standing on their own. My phone buzzed again. A message from his best friend. Well, he wrote, I'm officially cut off. I frowned. What do you mean? He removed me from the group chat, he said. Kicked me out for not being loyal. I exhaled slowly. I'm sorry, I typed. I didn't mean to mess up your friendships. Don't be, he replied. This just confirmed something I've been feeling for a while. He can't handle being wrong. I set my phone down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My chest felt lighter than it had in days. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? I said finally. This is his sister, a female voice said, tight with frustration. We need to talk. About what? About how you've been treating my brother, she said. He's devastated. The least you could do is stop your friends from spreading lies about him. I closed my eyes briefly. I didn't post anything, I said calmly. And they're not lies. They're screenshots of things he actually did. That's not what he told us. I can send you the screenshots if you want the full story, I offered. I don't need screenshots, she snapped. I need you to leave him alone. I am leaving him alone, I said. He's the one who showed up at my apartment twice. There was a pause. Your brother created a double standard, I continued evenly. He went out with his ex and told me if it bothered me, that was my problem. I did the same thing using his own logic. He couldn't handle it. Silence. Then, curtly, just stay away from him. The call ended. I didn't feel shaken. I felt steady. Because that was the turning point. Not when the screenshots went up, not when the comments turned, not when his circle started to fracture. It was the moment I realized I didn't need to convince anyone anymore. The truth had weight, and once it was visible, it didn't need me to defend it. From there on out, everything that followed wasn't a fight. It was fallout. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They came in waves, quiet at first, then impossible to ignore. By Saturday morning, the screenshots had reached most of his social circle. Not everyone reacted publicly. Most people didn't. They did what people usually do when confronted with proof that disrupts a comfortable narrative. They went silent, distanced themselves, stopped engaging. And that silence said everything. He tried one last time to regain control. Another Instagram story appeared briefly before disappearing again. Something vague about betrayal, loyalty, and how sharing private conversations reveals character. The comments under his regular posts were no longer sympathetic. They were skeptical, blunt. Dude, maybe just admit you were wrong. The double standard is wild. You can dish it, but can't take it, huh? Within hours, he started deleting comments. Then he locked his account completely. Behind the scenes, things unraveled faster. His best friend texted me again. He's having a full breakdown, he wrote, called me from a different number, begging me to stop siding against him. I stared at the message, jaw tight. I'm not doing anything, I replied. I haven't posted. I haven't talked about him. I know, he said. That's what's making it worse. Later that day, his sister tried again, this time through text. This situation is ruining his life, she wrote. Can you please ask your friends to take the screenshots down? I read it twice before responding. I didn't post them, I said, and they wouldn't exist if he hadn't lied. She didn't reply. By Monday, the fallout reached his workplace. One of his coworkers, someone I'd met once at a company happy hour, messaged me hesitantly. Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I work with him. He's been talking about you at work a lot. It's getting uncomfortable. My stomach tightened. What is he saying? I asked. That you're stalking him, the coworker replied. That you manipulated his friends and are trying to ruin his reputation. HR pulled him aside today and told him to keep personal drama out of the office. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. Thanks for the heads up, I typed. I appreciate it. A few days later, I heard HR followed up. The warning hadn't been casual. Multiple complaints had been filed, not by me, not by my friends, but by people tired of being dragged into a story that kept changing. He was moved to a different team. No announcement, no spectacle, just consequences. Socially, things collapsed even faster. His friend group split cleanly. The ones who valued loyalty over truth doubled down, defending him no matter what. The rest, the ones who'd seen the screenshots and watched the hypocrisy play out, quietly stepped away. Invitations stopped coming. Group chats went dormant. Events happened without him. His former best friend, the one he'd cut off for not being loyal, started organizing hangouts he wasn't invited to. Game nights, birthday dinners, nothing malicious, just life continuing. I heard he tried to start a new friend group, a reset. It didn't really work. It's hard to build community when your reputation creates drama and can't take accountability. He rebounded quickly. 3 weeks after the breakup, photos appeared, him with someone new. Aggressive happiness, constant couple shots, tagged locations, captions screaming, "Look how over this I am." I didn't feel jealous. I felt tired. His ex-best friend sent me a screenshot from another group chat. He's telling people he upgraded, that you were holding him back. I shook my head, more sad than angry. And then, predictably, the same pattern started again. His new girlfriend commented on one of his older photos, the coffee shop one from before we even dated. "Who's this?" He replied, "Just an old friend. Nothing to worry about." She commented back, "Cool. Maybe we can all hang out sometime since you're so comfortable with exes, lol." The post was deleted within the hour. A week later, he posted a long caption about trust issues in relationships, about how some people are naturally suspicious and you can't help someone who won't work on their insecurities. Then the new girlfriend stopped appearing in photos. By the end of the month, his social media went quiet. No stories, no posts, no vague quotes. Just silence. As for me, the fallout didn't hit the same way. My life didn't implode, it simplified. Work stayed steady. I got a small raise, not life-changing, but validating. My social life actually improved. People I hadn't been close to before reached out, admitting they'd always found him exhausting, but tolerated it for the group's sake. Without the constant drama orbiting him, everything felt lighter. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. Because the fallout wasn't something I engineered. It was what happens when someone builds their life on controlling the narrative, and then loses control of the truth. It's been a little while now, long enough for the noise to fade, long enough for the chaos to settle into something quieter, more honest. When I think back on everything that happened, the strangest part isn't how explosive it all became. It's how clear it feels in hindsight. I didn't lose him because I went to dinner with his friend. I didn't lose him because of screenshots. I lost him the moment I stopped absorbing discomfort to keep the peace. For a long time, I confused emotional restraint with maturity. I thought being secure meant swallowing reactions, minimizing my feelings, letting things slide so I wouldn't seem dramatic. I told myself that if something bothered me, it was my responsibility to work through it quietly. But that isn't security. That's erasure. What this experience taught me is that double standards don't show up loudly at first. They arrive dressed as logic, as calm, as someone insisting they're above jealousy while quietly benefiting from it. They show up as rules that sound fair until you try to apply them in both directions. And when you do, everything changes. Matching someone's energy isn't petty. It's clarifying. It shows you exactly what they meant by boundaries, exactly how much empathy they're willing to extend when they're on the receiving end. I'm not pretending the breakup didn't sting. It did. Finding out someone you cared about sees relationships as power dynamics instead of partnerships isn't painless, but I'm grateful it happened when it did. Before we moved in together, before our lives became more entangled, before walking away would have required dismantling something much bigger. He showed me who he was. And just as importantly, I showed myself who I am. I'm someone who doesn't need to beg to be treated fairly. Someone who can walk away without theatrics, without revenge, without rewriting history, because the truth doesn't need embellishment. To everyone who reached out with support or shared similar stories, thank you. It mattered more than you know. If you've been in a situation like this, if you've ever been told your discomfort was a you problem, hear this clearly. You're not overreacting. If someone shows you that the rules only apply to you, believe them and choose yourself anyway. And if this story resonated with you, or if you've lived through something similar, feel free to share your experience in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it.